Hello friends, happy Halloween. I hope you're having a lovely day so far and haven't eaten too many sweets or candy. I thought today we would take a look at a really famous poem titled Halloween by a guy called Robert Burns. Now, when I was doing my research for the origins of Halloween, which I'll put a link to down in the description, so I've made a video about that, I came across this poem, and I'm not really a huge poetry fan, but I thought this one was quite fitting for this channel and also for Halloween, of course. So I'm going to be reading it to you in a soft-spoken voice. We do have a little bit of a foreword here, which I'll read to you. The following poem will, by many readers, be well enough understood, but for the sake of those who are unacquainted with the manners and traditions of the country where the scene is cast, notes are added to give some account of the principal charms and spells of that night, so big with prophecy to the peasantry in the west of Scotland. The passion of prying into futurity makes a striking part of the history of human nature in its rude state in all ages and nations, and it may be some entertainment to a philosophic mind, if any such honour the author with a perusal to see the remains of it among more unenlightened in our own. And here's a little quote passage, I'm not sure, by Goldsmith. Yes, let the rich deride, the proud disdain, the simple pleasure of the lowly train. To me more dear, congenial to my heart, one native charm than all the gloss of art. Okay, so let's begin. Upon that night when fairies light on Cassilis Downan's dance, or o'er the lays in splendid blaze on sprightly coursers prance, or for Colleen the route is ta'en beneath the moon's pale beams, there up the cove to stray and rove, among the rocks and streams to sport that night. Among the bonny winding banks, where Doon rins wimpling clear, where Bruce once ruled the martial ranks, and shook his carrack spear, some merry, friendly contra folks together did convene, to burn their knits and pull their socks, and haunt their Halloween, for by that night the lasses' feet and cleanly neat, ma brule than when they're fine. Their faces blithe, fu sweetly keith, hearts leal and warm and kin. The lads say trig, wi' wooer babs, well knotted on their garten, some on cool plate, and some wi' gabs, gar lasses' hearts gang starten, whiles fast at night. Then, first and foremost, through the kale, their socks mourn and be sore taunts. They steek their een and grape and wail, for muckle ands and straught ands. Boar have real will fell aft the drift, and wandered through the bow kale, and boot for want a better shift, a runt was like a sow tail, sae boat that night. Then straught or crooked, yet or nane, they roar and cry at our the vera wee things toddlin' rin, wee stocks out o'er their shouther, and jiff the custocks sweet or sour, where just the legs they taste them, sin causally abune the door, we canny care they've placed them to lie that night. The lassies draw frae mang o' them to poo their stalks o' corn, but Rab slips out and jinks about behind the muckle thorn. He grippit Nelly hard and fast, Lud skirled out the lasses, but a tapical mist was lost. What coodlin in the force house with him that night? The old Gould's wife will hoard at nets, around and round dividend, and money lass a lass's fates are there that night decided. Some kindle goothy side by side, and burn the geether trimly. Some start our saucy pride, and jump out o'er the chimney, fu high that night. Jean slips into a ween tinny. What was she wanna tell? But this joke and this and me, she says into herself. He pleased o'er her and she o'er him, as they wad never mair part, till Fluffy started up the lum, and Jean had e'en a sair heart to see it that night. Poor Willie, with his bow gale runt, was brunt wi' primsy mally, and Mary nae doubt took the drunt to be compared to Willie. Miles nip lap out wi' prideful fling, and her ain fitted burnt it, while Willie lap and swore by jig 'twas just the way he wanted to be that night. Nell had the force house in her mind. She pits herself and Robin, in loving breeze they sweetly join, till white in us they're sobbing. Nell's heart was dancing at the view. She whispered Rob to look for it. Rob stole in Sprider Bonny Moo, was cozy in the new hut, unseen that night. But Mountain sat behind the backs of thoughts on Andrew Bell. She lays them gashing at their cracks and slips out by a cell. She through the yard the nearest darks, and for the kiln she goes then. And Darklins grab it for the box, and in the blue clue throws then, right feared that night. And aye she went, and aye she swat. I watched she made nae jogging, till something held with the pats. Good Lord, but she was a quawking. But whether 'twas the deil himself, or whether 'twas the boggin, or whether it was Andrew Bell, she didna wait on talking to spare that night. Wee Jenny to her granny says, "Where you going, me granny? I'll eat the apple at the glass I get frae Uncle Johnny." She fluffed a pipe with sigalunt. In wrath she was sae vapouring. She noticed nigh an answer brute, her bow new was apron, but throughout that night. Ye little scalpy limbs face, I dare you try exporting, and seek the foul thief only place for him to spare your fortune. Nae doubt, but ye may get a sight, great cause ye hae to fear it, for money and ne'er got enough right, and lived and died dereit on the second night. I harsed afore the share more, I minded swell yestrin. I was a gilby then, I'm sure, I wasna past 15. The simmer had been cold a wat, and stuff was unco green, and I a ranking kern we gat, and just on Halloween it fell that night. A scribbled rig was Rab McGreen, a clever, sturdy fellow. His sin got a piece we win that lived in Macalla. He got him seed a minded well, and he made Uncle light out. But my a day was by himself, he was scarcely frightened that very night. Then up got fetching Jamie Fleck, and he swore by his conscience that he could swamp hip seed a peck, for it was but a nonsense. The old guildman brought down the poke, and out the handful guide him. Sim bade him slip frae among the folk, sometime when nae had seen him, and tried that night. He matches through among the stacks, though he was smart something, though he was something stirring. He grep he for a harrow talk, and how that is goppering, and every now and then he says, him see I saw thee, and her that is to be my lass, come after me and draw thee as fast this night. He whistled up Lord Lennox March to keep his courage cherry, although his hair began to arch, he was safe-eyed and airy, till presently he is a quake, and then a granny and a grunnel. He by his shoulder gae a keek, and tumbled where a wintle, out o'er that night. He rode a horrid murder shout, a dreadful desperation, and young and old came running out, and hear the sad narration. He swore 'twas Hinchin Jean Macraw, o Cruchy Mern Humphrey, till stop she trotted through a ma, and what was it but Bumphy, a stare that night. Big Fan wad to the barn again, to win 3 which or nothing, but for to meet the Dale Helene, she put but little faith in. She guised the herd of pickle nits, and twa red cheek its apples, to watch, while for the barn she sits, in hopes to see Tam Kimples, that vera night. She turns the key with canny draw, and o'er the threshold ventures, but first on Sony gies a cry, sin Bodine she enters. A rattan rappelled up the wa, and she cried, Lord preserve her, and ran through middle hole and a, and prayed with zeal and fervour, full fast that night. They held at will with sae advice. They hitched him some fine broan. It chanced the stack he fathomed thrice was timber prompt for throwing. He tacks a swelly old moss oak with some black gruesome carring, and blew to winds and drew a stroke till skin and blipes come hauling of knaves that night. A wanton widow Lizzie was, as cunty as the kilton, but oh, that night among the shores she got a fair setting. She threw the winds and by the carn, and o'er the green gird screven, where 3 lads lain mid at a burn, to dip her left sack's living, was bent that night. Was o'er a linn and burnie plays, as through the glen it wimpled, was round a rocky star it strays, was in a wheel it dimpled, was glittered to the nightly rays, will bickering dance and dazzle, was cooked underneath the braes, below the spreading hazel, unseen at night. Among the branches on the brae, between her and the moon, the deil or else an outer kay got up and gae a croon. For Lizzie's heart must lap the hool, nae laughed rock high she jumpet, but missed a fitting in the pool, out o'er the log she plumpet, with a plunge that night. In order on the clean hearth stands, the loggies 3 arranged, and every time great care ta'en to see them duly changed. Old Uncle John, where Wellock's joys, sin Marcia did desire, because he gat the tomb dish thrice, he heaved them on the fire, in wrath that night. When merry sangs and friendly cracks, oh what they did and weary, and Uncle Tales and funny jokes, their sports were cheap and cheery, till buttered sowens with fragrant lunt set a their gaps a staring, seen with a social glass of strut, they parted off careering, full blithe that night. And that is the end. So I do apologise. I realised that halfway through this poem I was unintentionally going into a very, very terrible Scottish accent because it just read better like that. I could pronounce the words a little bit better. So I do apologise for that, for all my Scottish friends who are listening to me and thinking, oh my god, it's terrible. But it was quite a challenging poem to read because of all the difficult and familiar words. But I hope that you have enjoyed this little reading. Again, I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you very soon in the next video. Have a lovely day, guys. Bye bye.